Well, it's been about a week, but I got some parts in the mail from eBay today. Got a keyboard and a mouse. This is actually an Apple IIc mouse, but should be fully compatible with the Mac. I'll plug it in now, boot it up, and see if the keyboard and mouse work, and finally have some control over the machine. Ding! Here's the boot disk. And the mouse works. .1, system 6.03. See if the eject mechanism works. It does. Control panel. That seems like a lot of work to bring up the control panel. Keyboard. Domestic. See if there is anything on the disk I can use to test the keyboard. There we go. Let's just open up a text file and start typing. A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Capital A, B. Looks like the keyboard's working. Backspace, return. Let's try doing a proper system shutdown. Save changes, no. Need to clean that mouse or adjust the acceleration. Do a, how do you do a shutdown on this thing? Special shutdown. Very good. I have a external 800K drive. It doesn't look like a Macintosh drive, but it does have an auto eject mechanism. And I haven't been able to test this yet. The system would boot off of this, but I don't know if the eject mechanism works. So, plug it in, turn the system on, open the boot drive. That works. System recognizes. There we go, utilities 1. Now, see about ejecting this. Yeah, just pushes in the button by itself. I take this mouse apart and clean it. It's been a while since I've used anything but an optical mouse, but I do remember what happens when the rollers in these things start getting caked up with dead skin cells. Okay, for future reference, to open one of these things, get yourself a spudger and get in and pry up underneath the left and right side right here. Unsnaps, opens right up. So this is the kind of thing, this is the reason why I open these things up rather than just cleaning them from the bottom. There's a bunch of hair or something up underneath here. I'm going to have to take this whole thing apart and clean it. Okay, to lift these out, you have to push on this little springy bit here and this one. Take the whole thing out. Clean the roller and make sure that the encoder is free of any dust or debris as well. Snap it back in. Click, click. Take the other one out. Clean the gunk off. Good as new. The button pivots on these. The spring is captured on that. Ball looks pretty clean. Lock. See if it works any better. The Mac Plus I have is a platinum model, and either these are really yellow or they're the standard color. I may try to retrobrite the mouse and the keyboard later. Mouse is definitely moving better now. I did put a new battery in the battery compartment. They're actually a little bit hard to come by nowadays. Let's see. That feels pretty good. So I spent some time on this external Apple 800K drive, and I noticed what was happening was when I put a disk in, it was not dropping all the way, it was sitting like this. So the heads weren't contacting the disk, and the disk wasn't ever being fully inserted. This carriage wasn't coming forward all the way like this, it was sitting halfway. The reason for this is the auto eject mechanism. It was at some point halfway between eject and not, and since the disk would never go in all the way, the system would never detect that a disk was in there, and the eject mechanism never spun. So I'm going to go ahead and put this all back together, see if the drive works. So this eject mechanism is actually pretty simple. It spins in a circle, and it just pulls back on this bar. The pin here sits in this space, and when it's ready to, it just pulls it back. So when it's open like this, it doesn't matter how it goes in there. Just have to set the connector back in there. screws back in. And it works. Do a shutdown, and it pops the disc right out. The bottom of the Macintosh Plus was missing all of the feet except for one. So I pulled this one off and I went looking for replacements. First thing I found were these. They're clear, not white, unfortunately. And they're just a little bit smaller than I would like. So I found these online, SJ5412. The pictures online look right. They're the right shape, but they are still a little bit smaller than the originals. They are white and not clear, so that's a bonus. They're self-adhesive. This will give it a little bit of grip on the table. So that external 800K drive that I had got working suddenly stopped ejecting the disk, and this is why. This gear just shredded on the inside here. I don't know why this particular gear is made out of a different material than the other ones, but it clearly is very brittle. These feel like Delrin or something like that, but I don't know what that is. I found a seller on eBay who 3D prints these gears to replace them. So I'm going to put this gear in. First we lift up on this piece and then drop this on the shaft. It feels a little stiff going on the shaft there, so I'm going to see if I can't actually lift that up and put a little oil on it. This is just some quality machine oil. The gears on these two shafts just freely rotate. So that is mated. When you put this gear back on, you have to be careful to make sure that this gear is in the 12 o'clock position. When it is, this cam here should be pushing on the switch, and this should be sitting flush at 12 o'clock. And we just take this gear, pop it down on there. I'm going to make sure it mates, there it is, with the others. And then we should be good to go. Put the cover back on. Get this connector back on there first. Now for the testing. I received the replacement capacitors from Mouser. This is the original cap, and these definitely have some cracks in them. As I said before, these are really just to suppress RFI interference, so the system will run fine without them, but since I have some, might as well pop them in there. Always use a empty roll of solder wick to spool a bunch of solder on, so I don't have to keep pulling it off of a 2-pound roll. There we go. Capacitor's replaced. Now, that only took a couple of minutes. Now it's going to take 10 minutes to put this thing back in the computer and put it back together. All put back together and fully functional. Cap's replaced. Floppy drives serviced. Battery replaced. Eject mechanisms work.